Imagine a town without its heart. For Maplewood, that heart was Betty's bakery. But after Betty passed, the bakery was on the verge of shutting down. Then, a retired widow unexpectedly inherited it all. Get ready for a heartwarming story of community, resilience, and second chances that will restore your faith in humanity. This twist? You won't see it coming. Hey, Soul Stories fam. We've got a sweet and totally swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in. The music swelled triumphantly, light from the crystal chandeliers pouring down onto rows draped in white roses. St. Mary's Church gleamed with such splendor that the entire congregation held its breath. Every pew was filled with distinguished guests, familiar faces from society and close friends of the bride and groom. At the end of the flower-strewn aisle, Lily Carter, dressed in a pure white wedding gown, stood trembling, her heart pounding so fast she could hardly breathe. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the day she would become the wife of the man she had once believed would walk with her to the end of her days. But as the bells tolled and all eyes turned toward the altar, the place reserved for the groom was empty. Where is he? Someone whispered from the back. Has anyone seen him? It's time already. Lily blinked rapidly, searching desperately for his familiar figure in the sea of people. The priest stood ready, the Bible open as the ceremony was about to begin. But the groom, the man everyone was waiting for, had vanished as though he had never existed. Lily's face turned ashen. The bouquet in her hands trembled, roses falling in scattered petals across the stone floor. The murmurs swelled like crashing waves. Did the groom run away? Impossible at this moment. My God, what humiliation for the bride's family. Every whispered word cut into Lily like a blade. The world tilted beneath her. Her chest tightened, her eyes blurred with tears. No, impossible. He couldn't have done this to me. But the brutal truth was undeniable. The groom had disappeared. Her body swayed, nearly collapsing, until a steady hand caught her just in time. A cool, faintly familiar scent brushed past her, soothing yet warm. A deep male voice whispered in her ear, low but clear, slicing through the noise. Will you be my wife instead? Lily froze. She turned, tear-filled eyes meeting the dark, unwavering gaze of Daniel Hayes. Daniel, a young millionaire, celebrated in countless business magazines. But to Lily, that name carried an entirely different memory. The quiet boy from her college years, always seated in the back row, sometimes lending her notes, but never daring to linger close. Now he stood before her, his strong hand gripping hers firmly, his eyes alight with a certainty that allowed no hesitation. Choking back sobs, Lily whispered, "What are you saying? This isn't the time for jokes." Daniel tilted his head, a gentle but resolute smile tugging at his lips. "I've never been more serious. If you want to protect your dignity, if you want a man who will never abandon you, then let me be the groom." The church erupted in louder commotion. What? Get married right here? Isn't he the millionaire Daniel Hayes? Good heavens, is this madness or a fairy tale? Lily felt dizzy, her heart racing wildly. She didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. Everything was a nightmare turned into a strange play. But Daniel's eyes, they held no mockery, no pity, only fierce conviction that he would shield her. "Daniel," Lily's voice trembled, tears streaming down her face. "Do you know what people will say? They'll call me insane. They'll call you foolish. Let them talk." Daniel tightened his grip. "All I need is for you to look at me and answer. Do you want to escape this pain right now? Do you want to stand beside someone who will never make you cry again?" Lily bit her lip hard, her heart ached from betrayal and shame. Yet in her despair, his warm hand was her only anchor. 1 second, 2, then, as though surrendering everything, Lily gave the faintest nod. Her voice broken but steady. "Yes, I agree." The church erupted in shouts, whispers, and even bursts of applause. The priest blinked in bewilderment, mouth hanging open. Then the ceremony with the new groom. Daniel turned to him with a smile. "Please continue, Father. What could be more sacred than a man vowing to give his life to the woman he loves at this very moment?" The priest fumbled with his Bible, the guests torn between shock and exhilaration. The bouquet shook in Lily's hands, not from shame this time, but from overwhelming emotion. Daniel stepped forward, standing tall before the altar. Facing her, the world fell away until only their eyes remained locked. The priest's voice wavered, but held sanity. "Daniel Hayes, do you take Lily Carter to be your wife? To love and to cherish for the rest of your life?" Without a moment's pause, Daniel declared, "I do." His voice echoed through the church, strong as a vow etched in stone. The priest turned to Lily. Her green eyes never left Daniel's face. "Lily Carter, do you take Daniel Hayes to be your husband? To love and to cherish for the rest of your life?" Silence lingered. Lily drew a deep breath and smiled faintly through her tears. "I do." Thunderous applause shook the hall. Some even whistled. What had begun as whispers of scandal now swelled into cheers as if they had witnessed a miracle. Daniel raised Lily's hand and kissed it lightly. His eyes glowed as he whispered, "From now on, you will never have to stand alone." The bells tolled triumphantly. The priest, voice trembling, proclaimed, "I now pronounce Daniel Hayes and Lily Carter husband and wife." Though murmurs still rippled across the pews, all grew quiet as Daniel slipped a ring onto Lily's finger. His hand was warm, steady, so unlike her storm-torn heart. Lily felt the metal band tighten around her finger, binding her before she was ready. I just got married to another man in mere minutes. The thought sent her mind reeling. Daniel leaned down and brushed his lips over hers. Their first kiss, sudden, witnessed by hundreds. The church gasped into silence, then erupted again. Applause, cheers, even laughter mingled with curious stares. But in Daniel's embrace, Lily didn't feel pure joy. She broke into sobs, not only from emotion, but from sorrow long suppressed. Daniel held her close, his voice steady and warm. "It's all right. I'm here." Lily shook her head, tears soaking his shoulder. "No, I'm not all right. I don't even know what just happened. I feel so lost." Daniel's arms tightened around her, offering no scolding, no hollow promises. He simply let her cry, let her pour out her humiliation and pain. Some guests were moved to tears themselves, yet inside Lily the storm raged on. Just moments ago, the man she trusted had abandoned her. That wound was far too deep to heal instantly. She gently pushed Daniel away, wiped her eyes, and whispered shackily, "What you did, was it right? I don't know if I can handle this." Daniel gazed into her eyes unwavering. "I know you're hurting. I don't expect you to forget in a day, but at least today you're not standing alone. I'll be here, no matter your doubts, no matter your confusion." His words caught in her throat. She lowered her head, avoiding his gaze. She knew he was sincere, but her heart remained shattered, not yet ready to trust. They walked down the aisle to thunderous applause. Daniel's grip on her hand was firm, while Lily moved as though in a dream, every step heavy beneath hundreds of watching eyes. At the church doors, sunlight poured in blinding. Lily halted, drawing a long breath. At least I wasn't left abandoned in shame. At least I still had some dignity. But deep within her remained a hollow ache, a wound unhealed. She stole a glance at Daniel, the man who had pulled her from the abyss, yet at the same time pushed her into a marriage filled with uncertainty. The news exploded faster than the church bells had faded, as Lily and Daniel stepped down the stone steps. The dark wooden doors not yet closed. Someone shouted, "There, that's them." Then came the flashing lights bursting like New Year's fireworks. Microphones, phones, cameras. Questions rained down like hail. "Daniel, did you plan this in advance?" "Lily, don't you think your decision was too hasty? Was this a stage save the bride's honor act? Where's the original groom?" Lily stumbled back, but Daniel's hand immediately tightened around hers. He tilted a large black umbrella over her, shielding half her body and creating a small haven in the restless crowd. His voice, calm but hoarse from speaking above the noise, was brief. "This space is ours. Look at me, not the cameras." She obeyed, meeting his eyes. There was no hesitation there, only an odd steadiness. Daniel gave a small nod. "Let's go," he signaled to the driver, then guided her carefully through the throng. Questions still chased after them. Imagined headlines already piecing themselves together in everyone's minds. Yet, instead of dragging her at a frantic pace, he moved steadily, even pausing when a woman stepped on Lily's gown hem. He gently said, "Careful, ma'am," and the woman blushed, mumbling thanks. The car door shut, soundproof glass dimming the chaos. Lily exhaled, though her vision still blurred. Everything had happened too fast. A morning scented with orange soap and bridal tulle, an afternoon of tears, and now a marriage certificate. Her heart thudded wildly, both from panic and something she couldn't name. Her phone buzzed furiously, messages flooded in, friends, two aunts, a co-worker. Then her high school group chat resurrected as if it had never slept. Headlines popped up on her screen. Abandoned bride marries millionaire on the spot. Wedding plot twist shocks the church. We have the full HD video. Lily swallowed hard, leaning her head against the seat. I don't dare read them." Daniel reached over, switched her phone to do not disturb. "Then don't wait until tomorrow or the day after or next year. News needs you to exist, but you don't need news to breathe." She gave a crooked smile. "You sound like a movie line. A movie where you own the rights." He winked. "I'm just the supporting actor suddenly promoted to lead." Lily let out a small laugh, the first since morning, then felt quiet again. "Daniel, what if tomorrow people say I only married you to save face?" "Tomorrow they'll say plenty," he replied as casually as if discussing the weather. "Today my job is to take you home, then make a cup of mint tea, 2 butter cookies, and find a blanket big enough to wrap the whole world so you don't feel cold." "You think I'm a pastry to be wrapped like that?" Lily teased, startled by her own joke. "No, you're the only one who can make me feel full just by looking." He smiled. "As long as you're happy, nothing else matters to me." The words landed softly in the car like a pillow. They didn't erase the sting of humiliation, but at least gave Lily somewhere to set her weary heart down. Daniel's penthouse stood so high that clouds glazed against the balcony rails on damp mornings. When the door opened, the faint scent of oak mingled with lemon. He hung up her coat, swapped her heels for a pair of new white slippers, then explained, "House rule. Anyone who's had a terrible day is entitled to that armchair, this oversized pillow, and no email replies. And the homeowner goes into the kitchen," he said, raising spotless hands like a surgeon. "The first meal I cook for my wife should be serious and edible." "I'm not hungry," Lily murmured, blinking at the words my wife. 2 syllables, brushing her with strange weight. Then it's a light meal for the not hungry. He twirled into the kitchen with a dancer's ease. Menu, mint tea, butter cookies and chicken soup someone else kindly prepared in advance. My portion is prayer. She sank into the chair, scanning the room. Spacious yet warm, no clutter, a tall bookshelf lined with worn spines. A few photo frames still empty, and a black and white print of the Brooklyn Bridge in mist. On the low table sat a small square box. Daniel walked past quickly, sliding it out of the way. What's that? She asked. Ami rubbed his neck. A rare flicker of awkwardness. Something foolish I bought years ago, back when I had a plan. If I ever grew brave enough, don't open it now. Later. Lily nodded, didn't press further. Then her phone lit up on the table. Even muted, a push alert showed #1 trending. Below, laughing and crying emojis. Clipped captions, some were sweet. A cartoon drawing of Lily in a veil. Daniel shielding her with an umbrella of flashbulbs captioned, if today feels awful, remember there's always someone holding the umbrella. But others were cruel. Bride hungry for spotlight, all staged. Don't buy it. Lily pulled her hand back as if burned. Daniel had seen. He didn't snatch the phone away, didn't scowl. He simply sat across from her, placing a tray on the table. Steaming tea, fragrant chicken soup with celery, and neat squares of butter cookies. I've got up your team, he said. They want to issue a statement right now. Respect our privacy, blah blah, but if you don't want it, I won't post. And if you do post, those who like you will keep liking you. Those who hate you will call it an act. People will twist it either way. The only thing we control is whether the tea is sweet enough. He nudged the cup toward her. Taste it. Lily sipped. Just right. Sweet enough. Hot enough. Her throat loosened, strangely soothed. I'm just afraid. Tomorrow at work everyone will stare at me with that look. Tomorrow you're not going to work, Daniel said at once. I already requested leave for you. Requested from who? From you. He shrugged, eyes gleaming with mischief. You're my wife. I asked you to give yourself a day off. She laughed clearer this time. That's abuse of power. Exactly, and I'll keep abusing it. You must eat at least 3 cookies and 1 spoon of soup. Then I'll play a playlist with 0 sappy ballads. After that, if you'd like, we'll only look at the cute comments. Anything that hurts you, I'll block. You can block the whole world. No, but I can make a little shield around you. He laid a blue wool blanket across her lap. I mean this. She studied him for a long moment. In the silence, the city outside seemed to retreat. Images of the grim church still chased her, but slowed, tempered by the way Daniel poured tea without spilling a drop. The way he placed the spoon sideways so it wouldn't clink. The way he glanced at her whenever she lowered her head as if afraid she might shatter. Daniel, she whispered, what if tomorrow I changed my mind? I mean, this marriage happened so fast. I don't want to mislead you. He wasn't surprised. I know, and I won't force you into anything. Even if the papers say we're husband and wife, I can wait until your heart signs again. He touched his chest. This is the signature I care about. Lily bit her lip, her heart still tangled, still aching, yet, because he spoke in the language of patience, not demand, her confusion finally found a place to rest. Daniel's phone buzzed, a draft statement from his peer team. He looked up. Should I post it? It's simple. Marriage is a private decision. Please stop harassing Lily Carter. Malicious comments will be handled by our lawyers. Isn't that too harsh? She worried. It has to be. The word lawyer makes people think twice. He said with a playful wink, but I'll only post if you nod. Lily stared at her tea, the steam blurred like a veil between her and the world. She gave the faintest nod. All right, but don't overdo it. I don't want to become even more of a spectacle, I promise. Daniel typed 2 words to his team. Post it. Then she quietly set all her social media accounts to private. Disabled messages from strangers, and switched the music to soft jazz that fell like rain on a rooftop. Now he nudged her knee. Tell me 3 tiny things from today that are still worth laughing about. Laugh after all this, she sulked, though her eyes sparked faint amusement. I'll start. Daniel lifted a finger. 1. I broke my personal record proposing in under 10 seconds of thought. 2. I know the exact look a priest gives when thinking. New groom, did you memorize the vows? 3. You in a wedding dress told me. Stop joking at the altar. And I obeyed. Lily burst out laughing. She shook her head. Fine, my turn. 1. Aunt Margot has probably fainted twice by now. 2. My high school chat group is likely running a poll. Is Lily insane or brave? 3. If my neighbor asks tomorrow, did the girl next door get married yesterday? My mom will say yes. But to someone else. Brilliant. Daniel clapped softly as if in a theater. Reward another cookie. She bit into one. The butter melted. The sugar crisp. Sweet, but not overwhelming. She sipped tea again. The shame of the morning hadn't vanished. Of course not. But the edges of the wound dulled like gauze covering raw skin. Daniel leaned back, studying her like a critical project that had finally quieted its alarms. Hey, Lily, what? If anyone asks how I feel today, he said with serious humor, I'll answer, I just made the best decision of my life. And I'm learning how to cook unsalty soup. She stared at him for a long time, then whispered, thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just being selfish. He winked. I want my wife calm enough to keep bossing me around tomorrow. Your wife? Lily blushed instantly. The word still felt foreign. Yes, he said softly, almost like a breath. On paper you are. In my heart I'll wait until you're ready to call it true. Outside, the sky dimmed, streaked with butter orange between the towers. Online, words still scrawled, hashtags still climbed, and sides still argued. But inside this room, there was only the clink of a spoon on porcelain, jazz smooth as silk, and a man patiently wrapping a fragile heart in warmth and humor. Lily pulled the blanket higher, breathing slower. No, she wasn't happy yet. No, she hadn't found herself again, but she had found a pause in the storm. A moment where her heart didn't have to run wild, and that pause took the shape of a black umbrella, a cup of mint tea, and one quiet, steady vow: as long as you're happy, nothing else matters to me. Dinner, made of butter cookies and chicken soup, passed quietly. Afterward, Daniel gave Lily a short tour of the apartment so she could grow familiar with the space, then politely opened the door to the master bedroom. The room was large enough to fit a small living room inside. A king-sized bed with crisp white sheets, thick curtains shutting out the New York skyline, and warm golden light spilling across the space. Lily stepped inside. Clutching the oversized pillow Daniel had handed her, she sat on the edge of the bed, curling up like a frightened child. Her wedding dress was wrinkled, her face still strewn with tears. She didn't dare lift her head, only hugged the pillow tighter and stared down at her feet. Daniel stood at the doorway for a moment, then lightly tapped the wooden frame. I'll take a blanket to the sofa. This room is yours tonight. Lily startled, looking up with a faint blush. I didn't think I know. He smiled faintly, finishing the sentence with a softness that cut through all awkwardness. Don't worry, I have no intention of carrying out the full package of a wedding night just a few hours after the ceremony. Lily's eyes widened, then she unexpectedly let out a small laugh through her tears. That laugh eased the heaviness in the air. Daniel turned to the wooden cabinet, pulled out a set of bedding and calmly made up the long sofa. He did it with such care that Lily found herself staring. The press had once called him Wall Street's coldest millionaire, yet here he was, tucking sheets like a patient, gentle husband. There, softer than it looks. He patted the pillow. As for you, sleep in the bed and hold that big pillow tight. I have a feeling it's serving as my stand-in tonight. What a ridiculous thing to say. Lily shot him a glare, her cheeks warming. Daniel shrugged, a mischievous gleam in his eyes. I'm only negotiating peace with the pillow. It's clearly jealous and refusing to give you back. She laughed again, tired, but lighter. Daniel set a cup of hot tea on the bedside table, then paused, his eyes resting on her wrinkled, cumbersome wedding gown. Clearing his throat, he opened the wardrobe and pulled out a clean white shirt. Do you want to change into this? That dress must be uncomfortable. Lily froze, her face burning. She hesitated. But that's your shirt. Yes, and you should wear it so you're comfortable. His tone was calm, but his gaze was gentle. I promise it's big enough to serve as a temporary nightgown. She accepted it, head lowered, heart racing. A few minutes later, Lily emerged from the bathroom wearing the oversized shirt. The sleeves hung past her wrists, the hem brushing just above her knees. She looked clumsy yet in an endearing way. Daniel only allowed himself a quick glance before immediately turning away, covering his fluster with humor. See, clearly that shirt was made for you to borrow. Lily hugged the pillow. Sitting back on the bed, she pressed her lips together, though her eyes curved into the faintest smile. For the first time in a day of pure chaos, she felt a flicker of safety and relief. Daniel settled onto the sofa as promised. Before turning out the light, he added, if you get cold in the middle of the night, just call me. I'll make tea or bring another shirt. Lily buried her face in the pillow, her heart warming unexpectedly. The press had never once described Daniel Hayes as the kind of man who would patiently make up the sofa, offer tea, or lend his wife a shirt on their wedding night. But now she saw it clearly. He was nothing like what people wrote about him. That night, the penthouse was eerily quiet. Lily lay in the oversized white shirt, hugging the pillow tight against her chest. The bedside lamp cast a faint golden streak across the ceiling. She closed her eyes, but her mind refused to rest. Memories of the chaotic ceremony spun endlessly. The groom's disappearance, the pitying looks of the guests, and Daniel's steady voice. Will you be my wife instead? Her hand drifted up, brushing lightly against her ring finger. The cold band of metal sat there as undeniable proof of an unthinkable truth. She was married, and not to the man she had once dreamed of, but to Daniel Hayes, a name forever tied to magazine covers and headlines describing him as the cold, ambitious, untouchable young businessman. On the sofa, Daniel lay awake too. He rested on his side, one arm tucked under his head, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Tonight, he had achieved what he had quietly wished for so many years. Lily by his side, openly, lawfully, yet the way it had happened left him torn, both elated and unsettled. What he wanted was her love, her acceptance, not to be her lifeline in a moment of humiliation. They both lay restless in silence, only a few feet apart, yet with hearts pounding chaotically worlds away. The next morning, when Lily opened her eyes, sunlight was streaming past the curtains. The scent of warm butter and coffee drifted into the room. Gently waking her, she sat up, pulling the shirt closer around her, and stepped out into the living area. The first thing she saw made her blink in surprise. Daniel, wearing a checkered apron, clumsily flipping eggs in a skillet. Beside him sat a plate of toast and an open jar of strawberry jam. He was muttering to himself as if directing a mission. Don't burn. Don't burn. Just this once. Don't burn, she burst out laughing. Daniel jerked his head up, nearly dropping the wooden spoon. Lily, you're up. I am auditioning for chef duty. You look more like a cooking class student. She covered her mouth, stifling her laugh. Hey, I manage a company with thousands of employees. I can handle one fried egg. But when he flipped the egg, the edge was already a little charred. Lily stepped forward, deftly snatching the spoon from him. Let me. Daniel stepped aside, grinning. Fine, but credit still goes to me for waking you with the smell. Right? She shot him a look, but warmth flickered in her chest. Breakfast was simple. Sunnyside eggs, toast, jam, and 2 cups of coffee. Sitting at the table, Lily hesitated before speaking softly. Thank you for everything yesterday. Daniel paused, looking at her intently. You don't need to thank me. I just want you to know I've wanted to be by your side for a very long time. Her eyes widened. A very long time. What do you mean? Leaning back, his gaze softened, distant before a small smile curved his lips. Do you remember the library in Building C back in college? Of course, I used to go there for group study, and every time your group reserved a table, somehow the exact reference books you needed were always there, even the rare ones. Did you ever wonder why? Lily frowned slightly. Back then she used to joke with her friends. It's like some fairy godfather keeps leaving us books. Daniel chuckled. That fairy godfather was me. I go early, find the books, and place them on the nearby shelf. I just never had the courage to hand them to you directly. Lily's mouth fell open before she burst into laughter. I can't believe it. I thought it was pure luck. Daniel's ears tingled pink. Luck doesn't happen every week. Remember the final exam when you forgot your fountain pen? She remembered instantly. She'd been panicking until a pen rolled to her feet. She picked it up and used it for the entire exam. That was mine, too, Daniel admitted, sheepish but amused. I was 2 rows behind. Saw you digging frantically through your bag, so I nudged it forward. You turned back and smiled your thanks, and I spent the rest of the exam completely distracted. Lily clapped a hand over her mouth, cheeks blazing. Oh my God. So all those little things, they were you? Not all. Remember when you caught a cold after walking in the rain? The next day, a box of medicine was waiting on your desk. You thought it was your roommate, but actually I'd asked someone to leave it for you. Lily went still. Her mind replayed those scattered, forgotten moments, the strange coincidences, the quiet kindnesses. Now they pieced together into a clear picture. There had always been someone watching over her, helping quietly, yet never stepping into the light. Why didn't you say anything? She asked softly, her voice a mix of wonder and emotion. Daniel propped his chin on his hand, smiling faintly. Because you always shone. Back then you had a boyfriend, plenty of friends around you. I was just the dry, boring bookworm. I thought better to keep my distance than make things awkward for you. But you weren't boring at all. The words slipped out before Lily realized, and she quickly fell silent. Flustered, Daniel's smile deepened. Thank you for saying that, but back then, I really believed it. All I knew was studying and working. I wasn't good at expressing myself. I kept thinking, if I worked hard enough, succeeded enough, maybe one day I'd have the courage. Lily sat in silence, her heart a tangled mess. She had never imagined that behind the image of the cold millionaire in the press stood that boy from years ago. The one who had quietly pushed her pen, left medicine, and lined up books just so her days were easier. And in that moment, for the first time since the stormy wedding, her heart beat differently, not from shock, not from scandal, but from a simple truth. A man had been loving her quietly, faithfully for years. A shy but warm smile tugged at her lips. So I owe you more than I ever realized. Daniel's eyes softened, his smile gentler than any promise. If you'd let me, you could take a lifetime to repay it. Lily laughed, tears still clinging to her lashes, but this time, her smile was real, still following the story. If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. On their very first morning as husband and wife, Daniel suggested Lily take a few extra days off to adjust to the newlywed state. Lily protested weakly, but when he produced a mock file labeled emergency leave request for mental health recovery after surprise wedding, she couldn't help but laugh and ended up nodding in defeat. From that day on, they began learning how to live together. At first, Daniel took the lead in creating a light-hearted atmosphere. He teased her constantly in ways like, when Lily was making coffee, he suddenly poked his head out from behind the fridge, putting on a serious face. You put salt in there, didn't you? I swear I saw a grain fall in. Lily jumped so hard she nearly spilled the pot. When she checked, it was only sugar. Daniel burst into uncontrollable laughter. One evening, when they were watching TV, Daniel snatched the remote and switched to sports. Lily protested, so he immediately imitated a solemn announcement. Mrs. Hayes, tonight's sports channel is airing the match of the decade, national priority. Please. Lily glared, grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. Daniel caught it with both hands like a goalie, then hugged it as his prize. At first, it was just him doing the teasing, but gradually, Lily found herself drawn in, as though she were returning to her girlhood days. One evening, they decided to cook together. The idea sounded romantic, but the result was a disaster. Daniel insisted he was good at making spaghetti. He boiled the pasta until it was mush and tomato sauce splattered all over his shirt. Lily tried frying meatballs, but the flames flared so high the smoke alarm went off. Both of them coughed, finally giving up and laughing as they ordered pizza. When the delivery arrived, Daniel announced with a straight face, exactly as planned, an Italian dinner. Another time they were cleaning the living room. Lily stacked books neatly on the shelf while Daniel kept secretly rearranging them just to annoy her. When she caught him, she swatted his hand with a book, and they ended up laughing like mischievous kids. There were still moments when Lily froze, haunted by thoughts of her runaway groom. The sting of betrayal and public humiliation couldn't vanish overnight. But whenever her expression grew heavy, Daniel found ways to shift the mood. If she stayed silent too long, he'd put on a goofy song, grab a wooden spoon as a microphone and dance around. If she sighed, he'd hand her a handwritten bill, one sigh, service fee, one smile, payment due immediately, no credit allowed. Little by little, those small gestures chipped away at the ice in her heart. One evening, they once again argued over the television remote, but instead of fighting, Lily quickly switched to a cartoon channel and declared, neutral programming, childish and undisputable. Daniel laughed, sprawling across the sofa, resting his head on her lap like an oversized boy. Lily froze for a moment, then let out a quiet chuckle instead of pushing him away. Slowly, Lily realized the biggest difference between Daniel and her ex-fiancé. With the other man, she always felt the need to brace herself, to look perfect, to please him, to avoid boring him. But with Daniel, she was free to laugh like an idiot, burn meatballs or curl up with a pillow like a child. One evening, as they ate pizza straight from the box on the living room floor, Daniel looked at her and said casually, "You know, I never thought this penthouse would feel like home until you were sitting here." Lily froze. The simple words, no flourish, no exaggeration, made her heart tremble. She lifted her gaze and met his. His eyes shone with such honesty she couldn't deny it. He truly saw her as family. That night, when Lily lay in bed hugging her pillow, for the first time, the vast room didn't feel cold or empty. On the sofa outside was a man ready to make tea, lend her his shirt, surrender the remote, and share pizza on the floor. She closed her eyes, breathing out softly. The pain hadn't disappeared, but for the first time since the chaotic wedding, she felt the true warmth of a home. After the whirlwind wedding, Lily's life felt like a blank sheet, hardly any marks filled with strange empty spaces. In the penthouse, she had grown accustomed to the sound of Daniel's coffee machine each morning and the little notes he always left behind. Remember to eat breakfast. If you're sad, doodle on the coffee cup. She still feared the idle afternoons, those hours when her mind could easily slip back to the church, to the indifferent gaze of the man who left her. But Daniel's laughter, his silly jokes, the constant battles over the television remote, it all wrapped around her like soft cotton, making her pain less jagged. On Saturday, Lily decided to return to her old apartment to pack a few things. She wanted her picture frames, some books, and a sweater her mother had knitted. Daniel texted, "Want me to come with you?" She replied, "No need. I can go myself." He sent back an umbrella emoji with the line, "The sky looks stormy." She glanced at the ashen gray window, smiled faintly, and typed, "I'll bring my raincoat." The old street greeted her with the scent of rain mixed with toasted bread from the corner bakery. She climbed the narrow stairs. The apartment opened like a time capsule. Beige walls, pots of succulents, and a wooden desk scratched where her laptop once sat, awaiting deadlines. Everything was the same except her heart was not. She packed item by item into a box, a photo of her mother, a notebook of recipes, and a green ceramic mug Daniel had once teased. "Looks just like your eyes when you're angry." Rain began as she taped the box shut. First a drizzle, then suddenly a downpour like someone had tipped a bucket over the sky. Water droned on the tin roof of the corridor. Lily checked her watch. Nearly 6. She tugged the curtains closed, hesitating. Time to go. She typed to Daniel, "I'm on my way back." Before she could hit send, her phone buzzed violently. Battery 3. She hurried downstairs with the box. At the door, rain slashed across the street like sheets of silver. She stood under the awning, box pressed to her chest, wind driving droplets onto her shoulders. Taxi sped by, none stopping. Battery dropped to 1. She quickly typed, "I'm at," before the screen went black. Lily bit her lip. She didn't want to go back upstairs, didn't want to call neighbors and face their curious questions. So what really happened that day? She pulled her coat tighter, preparing to dash across the street toward the bus stop. Just then, a familiar car screeched to a halt in front of her. The door flung open, a black umbrella popped wide, and Daniel dashed into the rain like a scene from an old movie. "Get in," he shouted, though his smile stayed bright. "Do you know I already imagined 3 scenarios? You slipping, you catching a cold, or you turning into a mermaid." Lily froze, clutching the box. Rain needles stung her face. Daniel didn't wait for her answer. He grabbed the box, tilted the umbrella over her head, and let half his body soak. Come on, Mrs. Hayes, he teased, lowering his voice with a grin. Your emotional rescue team has arrived. Her lips trembled, her eyes stung, whether from the rain or his ridiculous words that she couldn't tell. Together, they hauled the box to the back seat, as Daniel opened the passenger door for her. A taxi sped by, splashing muddy water over his trouser leg. He glanced at his drenched shoes and sighed theatrically. Well, my right leg now officially belongs to the ocean. Lily burst into laughter. The sound rose thin and clear through the storm, tugging her free from an invisible knot. Inside the car, the windows fogged up with cold. Daniel turned on the heater and pulled a cotton towel from the glove compartment, handing it to her. Dry your hair. I don't want my wife waking up hoarse tomorrow. Then I'd have to change the playlist to fit your new voice. You keep a towel in the car? Lily asked, surprised. Since the day I married you, I carry emotional bandages, cotton towels, and emergency chocolate. He handed her a bar prepared for every scenario. She accepted it, setting it on her lap. The thoughtful gestures made her want to laugh and cry simultaneously. As she rubbed her hair dry, her eyes caught his reflection in the glass. His fringe dripping wet, his coat soaked through. You're drenched, she murmured. Better me wet than you, he shrugged as if it were the most natural thing. She turned away quickly, her heart skipping at the simplicity of his answer. Home? Daniel asked, his hand on the wheel, though he hadn't started the engine. Or do you want to stop somewhere first? I know a truck that sells hot cocoa by the river. Rain like this, cocoa with marshmallows sounds right. Lily nodded. She wasn't ready to go home yet. She needed a buffer between the old apartment and the new penthouse. A small step to soften the emotional shift. The car pulled up by the riverbank. Rain had gentled, falling in steady drops. They stood under the food truck awning, steam and the rich scent of cocoa rising into the night. Daniel ordered 2 cups, one with marshmallows, the other with cinnamon. She held her cup with both hands, warmth seeping into her palms, then into her chest. A gust of wind flipped Daniel's umbrella inside out. He fumbled for a second before bursting into laughter, wrestling with the metal ribs. See, even the storm knows when to make mischief. Your Lily laughed, then hesitated. Ridiculous, but in a charming way. Good, he nodded, because my plan is to use ridiculousness to beat the darkness. They stood side by side, watching rain ripple circles across the river. The city lights blurred in the wet distance. For a long moment, only the wind and the soft clink of spoons stirred the air. Lily, Daniel said softly. He tilted the umbrella more toward her, shielding her better. His voice dropped, no longer joking, steady as a stone placed in water. I didn't marry you just to save you. He paused, barely a heartbeat. But because I truly love you. She didn't answer right away. The wind lifted a strand of hair across her brow. Daniel didn't touch it. He just waited. Rain tapped the umbrella in a steady rhythm, stretching the moment. Lily's heart pounded, not from panic this time. Since the wedding she hadn't allowed herself to ask the question. Could I love him? She feared the answer might betray her wounds. Feared she couldn't tell gratitude from love. Feared another church, another whisper, another abandonment. But now, in the rain with the towel he handed her, the warm cocoa in her palms, his shoes still soaked from shielding her, her fear softened, not gone, but softened. Daniel smiled faintly, as if afraid too much force might break something fragile. You don't need to answer today. I can wait. I just wanted the truth to be here. He touched his chest, and here, his eyes met hers. Lily gripped the cup tighter, guarding a secret warmth. She looked up at him, all her thank yous. Harry's, her I'm scared jammed in her throat. No words came. Instead, she reached out awkwardly, tugging his collar higher, straightening it. A small, clumsy gesture, but enough to tilt the umbrella closer over him before she tilted it back to balance. A shy, gentle care. Daniel understood. He didn't step closer, didn't step away. They simply stood side by side, close enough for breath to mingle with the scent of chocolate and cinnamon. Close enough that the rain was only a curtain at the edges. Home? He asked again, soft as the breeze. Lily nodded. No words, but as they turned, she let her hand slip free of the cup to find his. She clasped it, held and didn't let go. Her heart trembled. Not from the cold. On the drive back, the radio played a slow jazz tune, saxophone whispering like a wordless murmur. Daniel drove more slowly than usual. Lily leaned her head against the glass, her hand still in his, her cocoa steaming from the door pocket. The city shimmered on the wet streets as though glazed with varnish. At the parking garage, Daniel stopped the car and switched off the engine. Silence enclosed them. He didn't press for words, didn't ask for answers. He got out, circled to her side, opened the umbrella, and shielded her all the way to the elevator, just as he had when he first pulled her from the storm. In the elevator, the yellow light reflected off brushed steel, showing 2 faces. His palm, hers still damp. Lily looked at their joined hands in the reflection, and didn't let go. The penthouse door opened. The familiar scents of oak, lemon, and hot cocoa mingled. Daniel hung up her coat, set the cup on the counter, then turned with a half smile. Post-rain ritual, warm shower. One of my shirts, and you pick the movie tonight. I won't fight for the remote. Lily nodded, lips curving faintly, still silent. But as she walked past him, She paused, reached up, and adjusted the towel around his neck, straightening it before moving on. That night she hadn't yet found herself again, but her heart had shifted a tiny quiet step toward the man who had confessed his love in the rain. And perhaps sometimes the real answer isn't spoken, but held in a hand that refuses to let go. That morning, when Lily drew the curtains, the city was still hazy with damp mist after the night's rain. She made coffee, opened her phone, and felt the whole world collapse into her hands. Headlines blared in red across every page. Trent Lawson speaks out. She left me for money. The wedding with the millionaire was just a stunt. Attached was a cleverly edited interview clip. Trent sat angled toward the camera, voice breaking just enough, claiming Lily had changed her heart in an instant and that Daniel Hayes orchestrated the rescue to polish his image. Flashing images cut in, Lily in her wedding dress with tear-stained eyes, Daniel holding her on the altar overlaid with words, per stunt. Gold digger, the caption slashed across the screen like knives. Lily's phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from people she thought were long gone from her life. Is it true, Lily? Did you really do it for money? I'm shocked. Don't destroy yourself like this. Her throat went dry. The coffee cooled. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the cup. She staggered back, leaning against the counter, breathing shallow. A message from Daniel. I'm in an early meeting. Don't read the news. I'm coming home. But it was too late. Every line she scrawled was another claw at her heart. Someone even released dotward screenshots of messages between her and Daniel before the wedding. Clearly fake, yet strangers insisted they were proof of their scheme. And at the bottom a hashtag climbing to the top. Number sign. Runaway bride for money. She shut the phone off. The kitchen was so silent it rang in her ears. In the Coven's reflection, she caught the image of herself, small, messy-haired, wearing the oversized shirt she had borrowed from her husband. The word husband flickered through her mind, warm and painful all at once. The door burst open. Daniel strode in, breathless from his pace. Phone still in hand, his voice clipped as he spoke into it. Push the meeting back. I'll speak for myself. Prepare a legal statement. Yes, file for defamation immediately. He dropped the phone onto the counter, eyes fixed only on her. Did you read a lot? Lily swallowed hard, then nodded. They're saying I betrayed him. They're saying you and I staged everything. Daniel, what if this marriage really was just to save my face? What if it's nothing more than an image rescue? Daniel shook his head, his calm almost startling, as if he had been waiting for this very moment. Number, this marriage is real. You and I are real. Everything else I'll handle. His phone buzzed again. The board of directors' stocks had dropped sharply at the market's opening. The pure team was pushing to soften the language and avoid naming Trent. Financial news sites speculated. Daniel Hayes' credibility shaken. One pundit wrote with biting cynicism, hero who saved the bride or director of the show. Daniel stepped onto the balcony for a short call, the breeze lifting the curtains. Lily gripped the edge of the counter, overhearing fragments. Brand damage. Angry shareholders. Ease the media pressure. When he came back in, she lifted her tearful eyes to him. Because of me, you're going to lose so much. Don't you regret it? Daniel only moved forward, wrapping her into his arms as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Never. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm scared, Daniel. I'm scared that one day you'll get tired. Too, that you'll leave just like he did. I'm not going anywhere. His voice was slow, deliberate, hammering each word into the air. I choose you always. That afternoon, Daniel held a press conference. No scripted video, no polished set, just a podium, a packed press room. And him. As he walked in, cameras clicked in rapid succession. Reporters hurled questions like spears. Did you stage the bride rescue as a pure move? Did Lily Carter leave Trent Lawson for money? Shareholders are demanding you step down as CEO. How do you respond? Daniel didn't dodge. He gripped the podium, meeting the sea of faces, head and voice low but clear. This is my wife. No one is allowed to insult her. The room froze for half a second. Then he continued, she has never betrayed anyone. The one abandoned at the altar was not her. The so-called evidence circulating is fabricated. Our legal team is collaborating with authorities to address defamation and electronic forgery. And to be crystal clear, I will never use marriage as a publicity tool. If anyone thinks I would sacrifice the woman I love for reputation points, then they don't know me at all. A reporter raised his chin. So you're implying Trent Lawson made this up? Daniel looked straight into the camera, unblinking. I'm stating the truth and I will prove it in court. Behind that wall of noise, Lily stood with the pure team backstage. Her heart thudded, her palms slick. When Daniel finished, the room erupted. Half outrage, half indication, like waves crashing against rock. He stepped down, walked straight to her, ignoring the lenses tracking him. Standing before her, he gave a small nod, silently asking, "You okay?" Lily could only nod back, her throat tight. That evening, TV stations replayed the press conference. Analysts dissected every word, and social media split into sides. Some defended him. If it were staged, would he dare name names and sue? Others sneered. When you're rich, you can spin anything. Anonymous messages pelted Lily's inbox like stones against glass. She shut her phone off. The room suddenly felt enormous. Daniel walked in with a small tray. Mint tea, a warm towel, and a handwritten note. Prescription from Dr. Hayes. No TV, no reading comments. Drink 1 cup of tea. Hug 1 pillow, and if necessary, hug the doctor too. You. Lily laughed through tears. Then her eyes creased. Aren't you tired? Of course I'm tired. But being tired because I care about you, that I can handle. She sat down, both hands upping the tea. The mini warmth spread across her tongue. I'm not strong, Daniel. Not like people think. I'm terrified. Terrified tomorrow will be worse. Terrified you'll feel trapped in this storm I dragged in. He pulled a chair closer, not touching her yet. Lily, the storm didn't come because of you. It came because someone couldn't handle the truth. And me, I'm here because I can handle storms. She bit her lip. But your reputation, the stock, the company, the board, I know all of it. Daniel smiled faintly. I've spent my life managing risks. The only thing I never want to manage is you, with you. I only want to love. Her head lowered, tears slid onto her hands. Daniel didn't rush to wipe them. He waited, and when her sobs quieted, he finally drew her into his arms. Not demanding, not dramatic. Just holding her tight, like building a wall of warmth around her. I'm not going anywhere. I choose you always, he repeated slower this time. In that embrace, the roar of the outside world seemed to fade like rain silence behind thick glass. She didn't say I believe you now. She didn't say I'm fine. She only leaned her forehead on his shoulder, breathing steadily. The fear of abandonment was still there, like a scar not yet healed. But over that scar, the steady heat of his hand on her back. Firm, constant, patient, pulsed heartbeat by heartbeat. At last, when the tea was only faintly warm, Lily whispered, what if tomorrow the storm gets stronger? Then we get a bigger umbrella. Daniel said, eyes glinting with wry humor like a silver thread through the dark. And if the rain comes sideways, I'll stand on the windy side. She let out a tiny laugh. Not because everything was fine, but because for the first time that day, she felt she wasn't fighting alone. Somewhere outside, headlines still scrawled. But here, in a room scented with lemon and oak, was a man stubbornly steadfast, and a woman learning to trust in something fragile yet powerful. That patience and gentleness were also a form of courage. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of the apartment, spilling golden streaks across the wooden floor. After days of public storms and relentless media, the world outside was still restless, yet inside this room, the air felt strangely calm. Daniel sat on the sofa holding a small blue plastic candy box, his expression so serious it was almost comical. Lily Carter. He tapped his fingers on the candy box as if reading an indictment in court. We may be married, but there's still one very important procedure I haven't done properly. Lily curled up under a thin blanket, looked up and frowned. Oh, what procedure? Daniel slowly opened the candy box. Inside wasn't chocolate or mints, but a bright red plastic ring, the kind kids usually found in snack packs. He lifted it up with sanity, as if it were a treasure. A formal proposal. For a moment, Lily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The image of this powerful man, crisp white shirt, deep blue eyes, now kneeling on one knee in front of her with the cheapest ring imaginable, was absurd and moving all at once. Daniel, she covered her mouth, her voice trembling with suppressed laughter. Are you serious? He nodded, his face unchanged, though his eyes curved slightly. Completely serious. Of course, I could give you the most expensive ring in New York. But with you I don't want to prove love with money. I want to prove that even if all I had was a plastic ring worth a few cents, I would still choose you, and I want you to choose me, too. Once again, Lily felt her eyes burn. She laughed, but tears kept spilling down. That red plastic ring in Daniel's hand shimmered brighter than any diamond. You're truly ridiculous, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks, but you're the man I need. And then, for the first time, Lily leaned forward and wrapped her arms tightly around his broad shoulders. Daniel froze for a heartbeat, then held her just as tightly, strong and unyielding, as if he would never let go. In that embrace, Lily could hear his heartbeat pounding against her chest. It wasn't cold or mechanical like the tick of a clock, but warm, urgent, full of life. She felt herself melt into that safety as if after years of running she had finally found her harbor. You don't regret this, do you? Lily whispered, her voice choked. Daniel chuckled softly, lowering his head to murmur right by her ear. There is one thing I regret. She looked up, her eyes glistening. What is it? That I didn't have the courage to tell you sooner. He winked, then carefully slipped the plastic ring onto her ring finger. It was loose, spinning around ridiculously. Lily laughed through her tears, shaking her head. It doesn't even fit. Daniel, that's fine. He smiled, his gaze steady with determination. I'll replace it with a real one. A perfect fit when you officially say yes again. That evening, they cooked a simple meal together, spaghetti with tomato sauce, fresh salad, and an unfinished bottle of wine. No private chefs, no waiters. Just the two of them in the small kitchen. Daniel clumsily sliced tomatoes, and Lily burst out laughing when he nearly nicked his finger with the knife. A millionaire who can't even slice a tomato. How embarrassing, she teased. Knowing how to analyze a multi-million-dollar contract doesn't mean I have to be good at chopping vegetables. Daniel countered, his voice cool, but his lips curved into a smile. The whole kitchen filled with laughter blending with the smell of tomato sauce, wine, and the warmth of a true home. After dinner, Lily sat on the balcony, the breeze brushing through her hair. Daniel set his glass of wine down, sat beside her, and said nothing. Only when night had fully settled did he finally speak. They can call you whatever they want, but you're not some bride chasing money. You're the bravest woman I've ever met. Lily looked at him, her eyes shimmering with a light she had never dared to admit before. Trust. She reached out and took his hand for the first time on her own accord. Thank you, Daniel, for not letting go. He squeezed back, his large hand completely enveloping hers. A vow spoken without words. That night, in the apartment overlooking the glowing city, Lily turned the plastic ring around her finger. It was cheap, silly, even, yet heavy with meaning. She knew the storm outside wasn't over. But in that moment, she also knew one thing for certain. True love had arrived, and it needed no diamonds, no glitter. Only two hearts brave enough to trust and stay. Lily lifted her head, gazing at the man sitting beside her, his shirt slightly wrinkled from a long day, yet his eyes steady and unwavering. She smiled softly and whispered, "Yes, I do." Daniel froze briefly, then laughed with joy as if the whole world could collapse outside and it wouldn't matter. He pulled her close, whispering against her lips, "This is the proposal I'd been waiting for." And in that kiss, they both knew this time, love was no longer a forced choice or a stage rescue. It was real, sincere, simple, and everlasting. A year had passed since the day they unexpectedly became husband and wife. If it had been a marriage full of arguments, doubts, and storms back then, Daniel and Lily had now turned it into a journey overflowing with laughter. Their mornings were no longer awkward. Daniel was usually the one to wake up first, sneaking into the kitchen to try to cook breakfast, but most of the time, the result was a messy kitchen, smoke everywhere and burnt toast. Every time Lily saw that scene, she couldn't help but clutch her stomach, laughing, wiping tears from her eyes as she snatched the pan out of his hands. "Daniel, if you keep this up, the firefighters are going to memorize our address," she teased, patting his shoulder. He shrugged, face completely calm. "It's fine. At least they'll know you have a husband who's always devoted, even if he can't cook." And in the end, the two of them always managed to turn a charred breakfast into a meal full of laughter. In the afternoons, they would take walks together in the nearby park. Daniel, the man who used to be so stern that people were afraid to approach him, could now make silly jokes just to hear Lily laugh. One time, when a sudden downpour swept over them, Lily hurried to cover her head while Daniel tossed his wet hair dramatically like an actor in a shampoo commercial. "Do you think I'd make a good model?" he asked. Lily burst into laughter and teased back. "Not a model, but maybe a clown." They also often appeared at charity events. They went together to the orphanage, handed out gifts to the children, and raised funds for the hospital. This time, the media was no longer looking for scandals, but instead began calling them the couple that restores faith and love. Daniel, though always a serious businessman, would turn into a funny storyteller whenever he stood before the children, making them laugh uncontrollably. Lily stood by his side, watching him, her heart swelling with warmth. "He didn't just save me," she thought. "He truly taught me how to live again." A year later, they decided to hold a second wedding, this time, not to cover up or appease public opinion, but a real complete wedding filled with love. That day, the grand hall was filled with fresh flowers, light reflecting across white silk ribbons. Friends, colleagues, family, everyone was there, faces bright with joy. No more whispers, no more doubtful glances. Lily wore a brand new wedding dress, simple yet elegant. When the mirror reflected her image, she no longer saw the abandoned bride she once was, but a woman cherished and radiant. The music began and she walked slowly down the aisle. At the end of it stood Daniel, waiting, his gaze steady, but his smile so warm it melted her heart. With every step, the shadows of the past receded. When Daniel's hand took hers, the entire hall erupted in applause. In that sacred moment, Daniel leaned down and whispered in her ear, his voice low but warm like a vow, "Will you be my wife forever?" Lily laughed softly, her eyes glistening, and replied, "I already said yes from the very first day." A kiss sealed their promise, and the hall was filled with cheers, laughter, and thunderous applause. That wedding was not a show for the press, but a true celebration of faith and happiness. Friends raised their glasses, and the orphans they had once helped pulled each other into joyful dances. Lily laughed so much her cheeks hurt, and Daniel kept finding ways to make her laugh even more. "See," he said as they quietly stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. "The tragedy back then was just the opening act. This is the real story." Lily nodded, resting her head on his shoulder, whispering, "And it's the story I want to live for the rest of my life." Later that night, back at home after their radiant day, Daniel was loosening his tie when Lily stepped out, her eyes sparkling as if she were hiding a secret. She bit her lip lightly, then whispered, "Daniel, I have something to tell you." He looked up, slightly worried. "What is it?" Lily smiled gently, placing her hand on her stomach. "I am pregnant." For a moment, Daniel froze, then laughter burst out of him, full of both emotion and joy. He lifted Lily in his arms, spinning her around as if the whole world was contained in that happiness. "Oh my God, Lily, I am going to be a father." She laughed through her tears, nodding her head. "Yes, and I believe our child will grow up in a family full of laughter." Daniel pulled her close, whispering with a trembling voice, "Thank you for making my dream come true." Outside the window, the first light of dawn spilled in as if blessing a new beginning more beautiful than anything they had ever imagined.